Two women switched their babies, unaware that this act would drastically alter the children's lives. The daughter of a wealthy tycoon developed a high fever, sending her father into a panic. Distracted, he crashed into a speeding truck. Both were rushed to the hospital. The tycoon's injuries were too severe, and he died on the operating table. The chairman of the conglomerate arrived, devastated by the loss of his son. His son and the son's wife had eloped due to family disapproval of their relationship, so the chairman had never met his granddaughter. A doctor informed the chairman that his granddaughter had a serious heart condition, difficult to treat with the current medical resources available in the country. Despite this, the chairman, seeing her as his only remaining family, ordered the doctors to do everything possible to save her. Meanwhile, in another room, Young-suk awoke to find a different baby in her arms. She remembered the switch before the accident. She rushed to return the chairman's granddaughter and retrieve her own daughter. However, at the door, she overheard the chairman's conversation with the doctor about summoning the best cardiologists to save the child. Young-suk recalled her own struggles to find treatment for her daughter, constantly being turned away due to lack of funds. Desperate to save her daughter's life, she made the difficult decision to keep the chairman's granddaughter. To stay close to her own daughter, she secured a position as a nanny in the tycoon's household. Through hard work, she rose to a managerial position within 30 years. Unbeknownst to her, her daughter, Yoon Kyung-hae, was not happy in the wealthy family. Yoon Kyung-hae was trapped in a loveless, nominal marriage to a gold digger named Jang Myung-hwan. He sought control of the chairman's fortune, driving Yoon Kyung-hae into deep depression. In contrast, Hong Si-yeon, the true heiress, led a simpler life. Though her family lacked wealth, they were a loving family of 7. Her father worked at a martial arts studio, her older sister ran a fried chicken restaurant, and her brother and younger sister, while unemployed, were kind-hearted. Hong Si-yeon worked at a luxury goods store to help make ends meet. Working amongst the wealthy came with its challenges. One day, a wealthy customer took offense at a salesperson's polite reminder about the price of an item, demanding an apology. When the terrified salesperson hesitated, the customer threw water on her. Hong Si-yeon intervened, not to defend the employee, but to express concern for the customer's shoes. She recognized them as a pair the woman and her daughter, studying abroad, had purchased earlier, implying their sentimental value. The customer's demeanor instantly changed. She smiled and left. Hong Si-yeon's quick wit and intelligence earned her the store's top salesperson award for 3 consecutive years. One day, Yoon Kyung-hae came to the store and specifically requested Hong Si-yeon's assistance. This was their first encounter in 30 years, a moment destined to reshape their lives. Yoon Kyung-hae was a shopaholic of epic proportions. While others bought individual items, she bought entire inventories, clearing out luxury stores in minutes. This compulsive shopping was her only solace from her severe depression. Not only that, but she also enjoyed playing the role of a shoplifter. Seeing no one around, she quickly slipped a silk scarf into her bag. Unbeknownst to her, Hong Si-yeon witnessed the entire scene. Caught red-handed, Yoon Kyung-hae showed no shame. Instead, she slapped Hong Si-yeon. As Yoon Kyung-hae raised her handbag to strike again, Hong Si-yeon squeezed her eyes shut in fear. Fortunately, the store manager and security guards arrived. Seeing the crowd, Yoon Kyung-hae retreated and left with the guards. Once in the car, she extravagantly tossed the $1,000,001 scarf out the window. After Yoon Kyung-hae's departure, the excited store manager informed Hong Si-yeon that Yoon Kyung-hae had purchased the entire store's inventory. She then directed the staff to pack everything, completely disregarding the incident. Hong Si-yeon's friend noticed something was amiss, and their conversation caught the manager's attention. Instead of comforting Hong Si-yeon, the manager scolded her for offending a VIP customer. She handed Hong Si-yeon Yoon Kyung-hae's business card, instructing her to deliver the purchases the next day and apologize. Though unhappy, Hong Si-yeon complied. The following day, the address on the card led her not to a residence, but to a shopping mall. After she called, a man named Lee Yi-jun emerged. He explained that the clothes were not for personal use, but for a charity sale. He also requested Hong Si-yeon's assistance at the event. Believing she was there to apologize, she agreed. At the charity sale, 2 wealthy women gossiped about those pretending to be rich to buy designer goods. They focused their attention on a boisterous young woman. Hong Si-yeon followed their gaze and realized it was her younger sister. Without a word, she dragged her sister to the stairwell. Under questioning, her sister admitted to buying a counterfeit ticket for 50,000 won to sneak in. Furious, Hong Si-yeon ordered her to return everything she had bought. Her sister stormed off, accidentally locking Hong Si-yeon in the stairwell. Just as Hong Si-yeon was wondering what to do, the door downstairs opened. She started to descend but stopped short, seeing a thug holding Yoon Kyung-hae hostage. Simultaneously, Lee Yi-jun noticed their disappearance and checked the security footage, only to discover the stairwell had no cameras. Thinking quickly, Hong Si-yeon set her jacket on fire with a lighter to trigger the fire alarm. This allowed Lee Yi-jun to pinpoint their location. The thug fled. Hong Si-yeon, her arm burned, approached Yoon Kyung-hae to help her escape. However, a terrified Yoon Kyung-hae pushed her away and ran off without a word of thanks. Panic ensued as the wealthy patrons rushed towards the stairwell. Just as a stampede seemed imminent, Lee Yi-jun appeared and pulled the injured Hong Si-yeon to safety. Strangely, when her mother visited her in the hospital, she showed no concern for her burns and insisted she be discharged immediately. Hong Si-yeon was bewildered by her mother's unusual behavior. Outwardly, her mother claimed she didn't want Hong Si-yeon to get entangled with the wealthy and cause trouble. In reality, she wanted to prevent her from encountering Yoon Kyung-hae. She knew that any interaction between them risked exposing the lie she had maintained for 30 years. However, she was unaware that the two had already met privately before she arrived at the hospital. While unaware of each other's true identities, Hong Si-yeon's vibrant and cheerful personality left a distinct impression on the chronically depressed heiress. Yoon Kyung-hae also noticed that Hong Si-yeon shared her taste in fashion. She hadn't connected with anyone so easily in years. Hong Si-yeon even promised to be a witness for her in the kidnapping incident. After their walk, Yoon Kyung-hae cheerfully returned to her hospital room with Lee Yi-jun. But when she went to find Hong Si-yeon, the bed was empty. Unaware of the discharge, Yoon Kyung-hae felt betrayed, triggering her depression. She lashed out at Hong Si-yeon's empty bed. Seeking revenge, she went to the store and, under the guise of shopping, forced Hong Si-yeon to hold clothes for 3 hours. As Hong Si-yeon faltered, even the usually harsh store manager pleaded with Yoon Kyung-hae, but to no avail. Just then, Hong Kang-hae, passing by, saw her sister being mistreated and intervened. She snatched the clothes from Hong Si-yeon's arms and confronted Yoon Kyung-hae. Fearing her sister would worsen the situation, Hong Si-yeon asked her friend to pull her away. But Hong Kang-hae became increasingly agitated, even accusing Yoon Kyung-hae of being ungrateful. As the pampered heiress, Yoon Kyung-hae couldn't tolerate this humiliation. She rose to slap Hong Kang-hae, but Hong Si-yeon caught her arm. Enraged, Yoon Kyung-hae slashed the store's clothing with scissors and ordered her staff to pay before storming out. For a luxury store, damaged merchandise was a significant reputational blow. The manager berated Hong Si-yeon, demanding she appease Yoon Kyung-hae by any means necessary. After work, Hong Si-yeon went to her sister's chicken restaurant and found Hong Kang-hae drunk. Her sister knew her impulsiveness had caused trouble, but she couldn't bear to see her sister bullied. That night, the family comforted Hong Kang-hae and offered support to Hong Si-yeon, bolstering her resolve. She decided to confront Yoon Kyung-hae. Ji Myung-suk, watching from inside, panicked when she saw Hong Si-yeon at the door on the security monitor. She tried to ignore it, but Yoon Kyung-hae had also seen her. She ordered Lee Yi-jun to bring Hong Si-yeon upstairs. To avoid being seen by her daughter, Ji Myung-suk cut her palm with a shard of broken glass. Upstairs, Yoon Kyung-hae waited on the terrace. "If you want to apologize," she said, knocking a vase to the ground, "show me." To keep her job, Hong Si-yeon reluctantly complied. But Yoon Kyung-hae demanded more. She ordered Hong Si-yeon to kneel. This time, Hong Si-yeon refused. She glared at Yoon Kyung-hae, picked up the flowers, and placed them back in the vase. Seeing Hong Si-yeon's defiance, Yoon Kyung-hae almost threw a handbag at her, but changed her mind. She tossed the bag to Hong Si-yeon and told her to follow. At the mall, Yoon Kyung-hae declared that if Hong Si-yeon could choose an outfit she liked, she would be forgiven. This request was a simple task for Hong Si-yeon. First, she chose a necklace. Recalling Yoon Kyung-hae's previous complaints about feeling constricted, she selected a lighter, more aesthetically pleasing piece that wouldn't burden her neck. Next, she picked a handbag, referencing Yoon Kyung-hae's past outfits to find a similar style. She also noticed Yoon Kyung-hae often incorporated purple into her wardrobe, so she chose purple heels. As expected, Yoon Kyung-hae was delighted with the ensemble. Their relationship finally began to thaw. In the elevator, Yoon Kyung-hae asked why Hong Si-yeon had left the hospital so abruptly. Hong Si-yeon, omitting her mother's role, simply said she had something to attend to at home. Yoon Kyung-hae then asked if she thought she was crazy. Hong Si-yeon replied that she simply saw her as a customer with high standards. This resonated with Yoon Kyung-hae, who felt understood for the first time. Back at the mansion, Yoon Kyung-hae specifically instructed Lee Yi-jun to personally escort Hong Si-yeon home and invited her to shop again the next afternoon. On the way, Hong Si-yeon received a call from her manager and looked at Lee Yi-jun, surprised. He explained that Yoon Kyung-hae wanted to reassure her that the incident at the mall was forgotten. That evening, Yoon Kyung-hae relaxed in the bath, recalling the enjoyable shopping trip, oblivious to the sinister plot unfolding. Jang Myung-hwan gifted his wife 800 million won earrings, but she flew into a rage, accusing him of infidelity. She claimed she knew his taste too well. Such beautiful earrings must have been chosen by another woman. He calmly retorted, "If I wanted to have an affair, you wouldn't find any trace of it." Jang Myung-hwan, once a nobody, had climbed to the position of vice president after marrying the chairman's granddaughter. But his ambition didn't end there. A woman named Kim Hyo-young, Yoon Kyung-hae's psychiatrist, arrived at the mansion. After examining her, she declared that to increase treatment efficacy, the medication dosage needed to be increased. Yoon Kyung-hae was unaware that Kim Hyo-young was having an affair with her husband. The medication, in high doses, had severe side effects. Meanwhile, Jang Myung-hwan met with the chairman, reporting Yoon Kyung-hae's disruptive behavior at the mall and its negative impact on the company's image. The chairman frowned. Jang Myung-hwan seized the opportunity to suggest sending Yoon Kyung-hae to Hawaii for treatment. This was his ultimate goal. With Yoon Kyung-hae out of Korea, away from the chairman's protection, he would be the sole heir. Seeing the chairman hesitate, he had Kim Hyo-young corroborate his concerns. Initially, everything went according to plan. However, Jang Myung-hwan hadn't anticipated Yoon Kyung-hae's improved mood after meeting Hong Si-yeon, which led her to stop taking her medication. Kim Hyo-young reassured him, claiming Yoon Kyung-hae had developed a dependency due to prolonged use. Now, she abruptly stopped taking her medication. Outwardly, there were no physical changes, but it wouldn't be long before unusual reactions surfaced. At the same time, Yoon Kyung-hae arrived at a restaurant to meet Hong Si-yeon, but Ji Myung-suk intervened, preventing their meeting. She stopped Hong Si-yeon just as she was about to leave the house. Hong Si-yeon questioned her mother about the sudden talk of studying abroad. Ji Myung-suk replied that it wasn't a sudden decision, but something she'd been considering for a long time. Afterward, they went to the company headquarters where staff earnestly explained the details of the study abroad program. But Hong Si-yeon was in no mood to listen. She kept checking her watch, feeling anxious, while Lee Yi-jun also sent messages urging her to hurry. Finally, Hong Si-yeon decided to leave her mother and meet Yoon Kyung-hae. However, having waited for so long, Yoon Kyung-hae's pent-up emotions had reached their limit. But what surprised Hong Si-yeon was Yoon Kyung-hae's unusual demeanor. She told Hong Si-yeon to sit down, pointed to a plate of escargots, and said it was her favorite dish, encouraging Hong Si-yeon to try some. Hong Si-yeon looked at the escargots awkwardly, having never eaten them before and unsure how to. They both felt a sense of awkwardness. The differences between the lives of the rich and the poor were truly vast. Then, Hong Si-yeon picked up an escargot and demonstrated her own method of eating it to Yoon Kyung-hae. Yoon Kyung-hae picked up another and showed her the correct way, offering the extracted snail meat to Hong Si-yeon. Although it seemed strange, she ate it. Unexpectedly, the food of the wealthy was quite delicious. Seeing Hong Si-yeon enjoying the food, Yoon Kyung-hae's frown gradually softened. She confided that every time she ate at home, a crowd of people stared at her, making her uncomfortable and even losing her appetite. Hearing this, Hong Si-yeon asked if she could take the escargots to go. then led her to a hilltop in the park, talking while offering her the food. This time, Yoon Kyung-hae finally ate heartily and gave a genuine smile. When she returned home that evening, her mood was excellent. She even specifically requested a ballon porridge for breakfast the next morning. Jeom Young-suk, happy to see her daughter's appetite return, asked if she wanted to add octopus. Unexpectedly, this triggered another outburst from Yoon Kyung-hae. At this point, she was still unaware that all these events were part of her husband and Kim Hyo-young's plan. The following day, while attending an event at the mall as planned, she accidentally bumped into Hong Se-yeon's father, who was delivering clothes. He quickly apologized, but her illness suddenly flared up. She covered her mouth, looking at him in disbelief. However, this scene was witnessed by Hong Se-yeon, who was there to meet her father. She grabbed Yoon Kyung-hae's arm, demanding to know why she had yelled at her father. Just then, a car screeched to a halt in front of them. The sudden braking sound triggered a flashback to Yoon Kyung-hae's previous car accident. Overwhelmed by multiple stressors, Yoon Kyung-hae finally broke down. Hong Se-yeon held her tightly, refusing to let go even as her clothes ripped. Finally, succumbing to the immense pressure, Yoon Kyung-hae fainted in Hong Se-yeon's arms. That night, Jang Myung-hwan relayed his wife's condition to the chairman and once again suggested sending her to Hawaii for treatment. Although she was his niece, Yoon Kyung-hae's continuous issues were severely impacting the company's reputation, so the chairman's stance began to soften. Hearing this, a sly smile crept across Jang Myung-hwan's face. When he returned to the bedroom, he found Kim Hyo-young administering Enrollment 4 to a sleeping Yoon Kyung-hae. Kim Hyo-young told Jang Myung-hwan that Yoon Kyung-hae's strange behavior over the past 2 days was a consequence of her previous overdose and her abrupt cessation of medication, and that her condition would only worsen. Hearing this, Kim Hyo-young was overjoyed, even beginning to fantasize about her life as the mistress of the wealthy family. However, she was completely unaware that Yoon Kyung-hae, seemingly asleep, was actually awake and had heard their entire conversation. At the same time, the chairman was discussing with Lee Yi-jun the plan to send Yoon Kyung-hae to Hawaii for treatment. Just then, a frail Yoon Kyung-hae entered. Seeing her kneel on the floor, weeping inconsolably, the chairman's heart softened once more. He asked her what she wanted, promising to grant any wish that would benefit her health. After a moment of thought, Yoon Kyung-hae uttered a single name, Hong Se-yeon. However, she didn't know that Hong Se-yeon was preparing to study abroad, as arranged by her mother. Jeom Young-suk had quietly saved money for years to fund her daughter's education. With Yoon Kyung-hae's current situation, she believed it was the opportune time for Se-yeon to leave. The next day, Hong Se-yeon arrived at the mall for work as usual, only to be summoned to the manager's office and severely scolded for the previous day's incident. The scene then shifts to an elderly man in modest clothing listening to a salesperson introduce a product. Suddenly, he uses his walking stick to knock an expensive hat, worth hundreds of millions, to the floor. The staff member was initially flustered but quickly recovered, putting on a pleasant face and respectfully packaging the item for him. However, while organizing merchandise, Hong Se-yeon overheard them gossiping about the old man, criticizing him for being senile and eccentric. These words deeply bothered Hong Se-yeon, who was working as the old man's shopping assistant. To ease the tension, she offered to help them rearrange the merchandise. In doing so, she discovered that all the hats were defective. She finally understood why the old man had dismissed the items as trash. Drawing on her years of retail experience, Hong Se-yeon clearly explained the defects to the staff. The elderly man, observing her handle the situation with such fluency, smiled with satisfaction, thinking to himself, she truly was a capable assistant, just as his niece had chosen. It turned out that not long before, Yoon Kyung-hae had pleaded with the chairman not to send her to a treatment facility in Hawaii and had boldly suggested that having Hong Se-yeon as her personal secretary would improve her condition. Later, Yoon Kyung-hae met with Hong Se-yeon and, with a haughty demeanor, ordered her to become her secretary. To Yoon Kyung-hae's fury, Hong Se-yeon flatly refused. She instantly grabbed a glass of wine, intending to throw it at Se-yeon, but Se-yeon quickly intercepted it. Immediately afterward, the chairman sent someone to summon Hong Se-yeon's mother to the mansion to persuade her daughter. Fearing the truth would be revealed, her mother could only refuse. However, an offer from a keyball wasn't something one could easily decline. The next day, as Hong Si-yeon was returning home from work, a motorcycle suddenly sped towards her. Fortunately, a man rushed forward and pushed her out of harm's way. To repay this kindness, Hong Si-yeon agreed to be his shopping assistant for a day, and that man was the chairman. He then revealed his identity and once again invited her to become his niece's personal assistant. But Hong Si-yeon declined, citing her impending study abroad plans. As soon as she finished speaking, the chairman's benevolent expression instantly hardened. Just as she was about to leave for her studies abroad, Hong Si-yeon was unexpectedly arrested by the police on charges of selling counterfeit goods. Her mother immediately went to the mall to confront the owner. After a conversation, she realized the person behind it all was the chairman of the wealthy family. She rushed to see the chairman to argue her case. However, the chairman replied that not only did she want to save her daughter, but he was also trying to save his niece, Yoon Kyung-hae. He made it clear that Hong Si-yeon was now barred from leaving the country and asked her to persuade her daughter to stay. Meanwhile, Yoon Kyung-hae clashed with her husband over the news reports. They exchanged heated words, each striking at the other's vulnerabilities. Finally, Jang Myung-hwan lost his temper and slapped his wife. Shortly after, Jeom Young-suk, Si-yeon's mother, received a call from Yoon Kyung-hae. When she arrived, she found Yoon Kyung-hae completely drunk, flinching away from her comforting touch like a frightened animal. Witnessing this, Jeom Young-suk decided to keep Hong Si-yeon from leaving. Due to insufficient evidence, Si-yeon was temporarily released on bail. Just as she was excitedly packing for her trip, her mother entered, embraced her remorsefully, and handed her a contract. And so, the poor girl officially began working for the wealthy family. Unexpectedly, it was her mother who opened the door for her at the mansion. Her mother's demeanor had completely transformed. A silk blouse, a confident gaze, a serene smile. What shocked Si-yeon even more was the immense respect shown to her mother by the butlers and house staff. As she followed her mother to meet the chairman, Si-yeon was filled with suspicion. Meanwhile, Yoon Kyung-hae felt incredibly uncomfortable. Si-yeon had previously rejected her, and now she was working in their home, clearly having gained some advantage from the chairman. Through the chairman's introduction, Si-yeon learned that her mother was actually the head housekeeper of the wealthy family. While settling into her room, she asked her mother why she had kept it a secret. Her mother simply replied that it was a job with a confidentiality clause, so their relationship couldn't be disclosed. Although the explanation sounded forced, Si-yeon couldn't possibly imagine that she herself was the true heiress of the wealthy family. At the same time, the chairman announced he would appoint his niece, Yoon Kyung-hae, as his successor at the next day's board meeting. Jang Myung-hwan, worried about his wife's unstable mental state, hoped the chairman would reconsider. But Kyung-hae readily agreed, assuring him she wouldn't disappoint him. Satisfied, the chairman immediately ordered Jang Myung-hwan to fully support his wife. Back in his office, Jang Myung-hwan was bitter that his dedicated service was being used as a stepping stone for his wife. Therefore, he decided to hire an assassin to eliminate Yoon Kyung-hae. He immediately called her to arrange a meeting. Upon receiving the call, Yoon Kyung-hae's expression changed, and she rushed to the basement to get her car. Before leaving, she locked Hong Si-yeon in the basement to prevent her from following. Arriving at the designated meeting place, a cemetery, Kyung-hae confronted Jang Myung-hwan. It turned out that she had caused a fatal hit-and-run accident the previous year and fled the scene. And now Jang Myung-hwan was using this secret to blackmail her. He gave her a USB drive, demanding that she not attend the meeting the next day or he would expose everything. Threatened, Yoon Kyung-hae missed the succession ceremony. Furious, the chairman immediately asked his secretary about Hong Si-yeon's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Si-yeon was still locked in the basement, shivering from the cold. That evening, Kyung-hae returned home in a disheveled state. Jang Myung-hwan pretended to comfort his wife, but just then, Si-yeon also returned. Before she could speak to the chairman, she was slapped by her mother, who was still playing the role of the housekeeper. Later, Hong Si-yeon went for an internship interview at a fashion company. Yoon Kyung-hae, upon learning about this, used her influence to become a judge and deliberately increased the difficulty of the test to the highest level. The candidates had to identify a unique feature on the model's coat. One by one, they failed to spot it. When it was Si-yeon's turn, Yoon Kyung-hae immediately sneered, convinced that Si-yeon would undoubtedly fail. The judge then asked the contestants to raise their hands if they knew the answer, and everyone exchanged glances. Only Hong Si-yeon slowly raised her hand and provided the correct response. This irritated Yoon Kyung-hae. Upon returning home, Yoon Kyung-hae called Hong Si-yeon over. At the same time, Jang Myung-hwan was discussing with Kim Hyo-young how to deal with Yoon Kyung-hae. They decided to drive a wedge between Hong Si-yeon and Yoon Kyung-hae. So, after Jang Myung-hwan returned home, he deliberately engaged Hong Si-yeon in conversation in front of Yoon Kyung-hae. Later that evening, under the guise of being their doctor, he invited both Hong Si-yeon and Yoon Kyung-hae to separate dinners. He had carefully timed it so Yoon Kyung-hae would catch a glimpse of Hong Si-yeon, deepening the misunderstanding between them. However, he hadn't anticipated Hong Si-yeon's inherent honesty. She returned. Upon seeing Hong Si-yeon, Yoon Kyung-hae shoved her into the elevator, calling her a vixen, and without another word, pushed her to the ground. Just then, the elevator malfunctioned. In the darkness, Yoon Kyung-hae's claustrophobia resurfaced, her mind flooded with images of a hit-and-run accident she had caused. Fortunately, Hong Si-yeon had some first-aid knowledge. After being comforted by Hong Si-yeon, Yoon Kyung-hae gradually calmed down. Soon after, the elevator was repaired, and they both emerged. Jang Myung-hwan feigned concern and rushed over. Back at home, Hong Si-yeon tried to explain everything, but Yoon Kyung-hae, showing no gratitude, coldly brushed her off. Angered, Hong Si-yeon tried to call her mother to vent, but couldn't get through. She reluctantly packed her bags and left. The next day, the chairman summoned Hong Si-yeon and pressured her to continue working as Yoon Kyung-hae's secretary. However, the chairman suddenly suffered a heart attack and was hospitalized, instructing someone to give the company seal to Yoon Kyung-hae. Jang Myung-hwan, upon hearing the news, brought a substandard business proposal and forced Yoon Kyung-hae to stamp it. Yoon Kyung-hae tried to resist, but Jang Myung-hwan choked her, forcing her to comply. Just then, Hong Si-yeon arrived. Yoon Kyung-hae, no longer arrogant, seemed like a lost child. They shared a moment of silence, both sensing the sincerity in the other. A short while later, Yoon Kyung-hae left the room, only to be intercepted by Jang Myung-hwan. He then exploited Yoon Kyung-hae's weakness, forcing her to stamp the flawed proposal. That night, Jang Myung-hwan went to Hong Si-yeon's home and threatened her to stay out of other people's business, or he would tell Yoon Kyung-hae that she was the housekeeper's daughter. Undeterred, Hong Si-yeon declared she would return to Yoon Kyung-hae's house to continue working. True to her word, the next day, Hong Si-yeon arrived back at the mansion with her suitcase. Unlike before, Yoon Kyung-hae treated her warmly. Hong Si-yeon then sought out her mother, wanting to tell the chairman about the previous day's events. However, her mother, the housekeeper, stopped her, suspecting that Jang Myung-hwan was holding something over Yoon Kyung-hae. That evening, Jeom Young-suk, the housekeeper, secretly followed Jang Myung-hwan to an apartment building. After confirming his elevator stopped on the 8th floor, she checked the mailboxes for clues, wanting to remain discreet. She unexpectedly discovered that Yoon Kyung-hae's doctor also lived there. Suddenly, Jang Myung-hwan received a call from security and rushed downstairs to find his luxury car vandalized. He immediately checked the surveillance footage. Upon reviewing the footage, he broke into a cold sweat. The vandal was none other than Jeom Young-suk. At the same time, the doctor, thinking Jang Myung-hwan had returned, opened her door for her lover. Instead, Jeom Young-suk grabbed her by the hair and threw her onto the sofa. Chaos and destruction ensued. Finally, she took a photo of the doctor and Jang Myung-hwan together as evidence. The next day, Jeom Young-suk confronted Jang Myung-hwan, threatening to expose his affair with the doctor to the chairman. Unfazed, Jang Myung-hwan summoned Yoon Kyung-hae. Leveraging his hold over her, he ordered her to manage the staff properly. Yoon Kyung-hae, powerless to disobey, reluctantly reprimanded the housekeeper for her supposed insubordination. Forced to apologize to Jang Myung-hwan, Jeom Young-suk resolved to uncover the nature of his control over her daughter. Meanwhile, Jang Myung-hwan met with Kim Hyo-young. They plotted to remove Jeom Young-suk, the obstacle, from the household. Kim Hyo-young began investigating Jeom Young-suk, unearthing a 30-year-old secret. That day, Ji Myung-suk visited the mentally ill matriarch in the hospital. To prevent future complications, she signaled the doctor to administer memory-erasing drugs. Believing this secret was airtight, Ji Myung-suk left the hospital, unaware of a watchful gaze following her Yoon Kyung-hai's therapist, Kim Hyo-young. Kim Hyo-young snuck into the patient's room and was stunned to see the woman in the bed. The matriarch, presumed dead by the outside world, was alive and hidden away. To uncover the truth, Kim Hyo-young consulted a senior colleague at the hospital, learning about the memory-erasing drugs. Recalling the past friendship between Ji Myung-suk and the matriarch, and that their daughters were the same age, a daring thought struck her. Kim Hyo-young confronted Ji Myung-suk, asking how the chairman would react to her concealed identity and 30 years of service as the family housekeeper. She used this leverage to blackmail Ji Myung-suk into silence about her affair with Jang Myung-hwan, threatening mutual destruction. Ji Myung-suk's agreement solidified Kim Hyo-young's suspicions. She relayed this information to Jang Myung-hwan, then returned to the hospital and injected the matriarch with a truth serum designed to elicit answers from sleeping subjects. As the drug took effect, the matriarch stirred. Under Kim Hyo-young's questioning, Ji Myung-suk's 30-year-old secret was revealed. To verify the matriarch's claims, Kim Hyo-young collected samples from Ji Myung-suk, Yoon Kyung-hai, and the chairman for DNA testing. Meanwhile, Ji Myung-suk stumbled upon a document during her cleaning Jang Myung-hwan's vasectomy report. Recognizing the implications, she delivered the report to the chairman, who immediately summoned Jang Myung-hwan, throwing the report in his face and demanding an explanation. Jang Myung-hwan, pale and trembling, retrieved the report and begged for forgiveness. Unmoved, the chairman banished him from the household. Kim Hyo-young informed Jang Myung-hwan of his expulsion. At the same time, Hong Si-yeon and Yoon Kyung-hai were enjoying a meal together, their harmonious interaction delighting Ji Myung-suk. This moment was shattered by a call from Kim Hyo-young, revealing her knowledge of Yoon Kyung-hai's false identity and requesting a meeting. The news devastated Ji Myung-suk, but seeing her daughter's newfound happiness, she masked her panic and made excuses. She then met with Kim Hyo-young and Jang Myung-hwan. Jang Myung-hwan, claiming they were all grasshoppers on the same rope, proposed they collaborate to install Yoon Kyung-hai as chairman, then transfer the position to him. He promised Ji Myung-suk and Yoon Kyung-hai a lifetime of financial security. Expecting compliance, they were shocked by her defiant response. She declared her readiness to atone for her past at any cost. As Ji Myung-suk prepared to leave, Kim Hyo-young hinted at her knowledge of Ji Myung-suk's vulnerability, forcing her reluctant agreement. Kim Hyo-young then demanded to know the whereabouts of the chairman's real daughter. Protecting Hong Si-yeon, Ji Myung-suk lied, claiming the child had died of illness. However, the cunning Kim Hyo-young was unconvinced. The next day, under the pretext of a clothing fitting, she met with Hong Si-yeon and surreptitiously pulled a strand of her hair for DNA analysis. The results confirmed Hong Si-yeon as the chairman's true granddaughter. They began plotting, aiming to exploit Hong Si-yeon's undisclosed identity and manipulate the chairman into dismissing her. However, Hong Si-yeon was absent from the company, spending her days with the chairman on a mysterious errand. To investigate, Jang Myung-hwan snuck into Hong Si-yeon's workshop, discovering unpatented company fabric. The next day, Hong Si-yeon experienced a brief elevator malfunction. Unbeknownst to her, during that moment of darkness, a man stole her research from her bag. Oblivious, she presented her work to the chairman, only to reveal shredded fabric. Furious, the chairman scolded her, emphasizing the dire consequences of leaking the unpatented material. Hong Si-yeon was devastated. However, the fabric mysteriously reappeared. Jang Myung-hwan, seeking reinstatement, returned the stolen fabric, falsely claiming to have found it among the scraps. Seeing Jang Myung-hwan's bandaged arm, the chairman softened, but didn't invite him back. That evening, after discussing the matter with Kim Hyo-young, she decided to confess her role in Jang Myung-hwan's vasectomy and offer her resignation. The chairman granted Jang Myung-hwan another chance and informed Yoon Kyung-hai, leading to his triumphant return and the flower-throwing incident with Ji Myung-suk. Ji Myung-suk bitterly warned him that Yoon Kyung-hai wouldn't accept his return. Jang Myung-hwan then went to the chairman's office, pathetically pleading on his knees against his and Yoon Kyung-hai's divorce. However, once the chairman left, his facade crumbled, and he erupted in a tirade. Meanwhile, Yoon Kyung-hai confronted Kim Hyo-young, revealing her knowledge of Jang Myung-hwan's affair and asking for the woman's identity, leaving Kim Hyo-young terrified. A distraught Kim Hyo-young confided in Jang Myung-hwan, who, focused on divorce, suggested severing all ties. They decided to reveal the truth about the real and fake heiress to Yoon Kyung-hai, hoping fear of losing her status would prevent divorce and lead to Hong Si-yeon's dismissal. The next day, confident in their plan, they gleefully awaited Yoon Kyung-hai. However, their smugness evaporated as the chairman entered behind her. They scrambled to their feet, exchanging panicked glances and silently abandoning their plan. Yet, a remark from Yoon Kyung-hai rekindled Jang Myung-hwan's hope. He returned to the mansion, finding a pale Jeom Young-suk and triumphantly ordering her to pack her bags. While changing, he discovered new clothes from Yoon Kyung-hai, along with a request for him to come home early. Confused by his wife's sudden change in behavior, he remained unaware of her plan. Yoon Kyung-hai then contacted Lee Yi-jun, requesting a discreet investigation into Kim Hyo-young's background, all while Kim Hyo-young remained blissfully ignorant. Kim Hyo-young was preparing dinner with Jang Myung-hwan when he abruptly announced he had to go home, irritating her. She sarcastically warned him not to be fooled by Yoon Kyung-hai. Mid-argument, Jeom Young-suk burst in with Jang Myung-hwan's suitcase, ordering him to stay away from Yoon Kyung-hai. To silence her, Kim Hyo-young revealed Yoon Kyung-hai's hit and run, showing Jeom Young-suk the accident footage. Devastated, Jeom Young-suk confronted Yoon Kyung-hai, whose panicked denials confirmed the truth. Jeom Young-suk, taking her daughter's hand, resolved to eliminate the threat. The next day, Yoon Kyung-hai pleaded with the chairman in front of Jang Myung-hwan to dismiss Hong Si-yeon and assign company projects to him. When questioned, she claimed Hong Si-yeon's past involvement in a counterfeit scandal tarnished the company's image. Jang Myung-hwan, unable to contain his glee, believed Yoon Kyung-hai had changed and was actively helping him eliminate Hong Si-yeon. After work, he rushed to celebrate with Kim Hyo-young, unaware that a newly dismissed Hong Si-yeon was standing before a luxury car occupied by Yoon Kyung-hai and Jeom Young-suk. The three went to a cafe. This was their counter-strategy, designed to lull Jang Myung-hwan and Kim Hyo-young into a false sense of security while Hong Si-yeon completed her designs. The following day, Yoon Kyung-hai handed over her work to a completely oblivious Jang Myung-hwan, blinded by her apparent affection. He then presented his new product designs to the chairman, who remained unimpressed. The chairman then produced a different design, causing Jang Myung-hwan to break out in a cold sweat. Meanwhile, Kim Hyo-young visited Park Soo-ran, the matriarch, at the hospital. Under her care, Park Soo-ran's memory was returning, and she planned to meet her daughter, Hong Si-yeon, as instructed by Kim Hyo-young. However, Lee Yi-jun suddenly appeared. Observing Hong Si-yeon and Lee Yi-jun's happiness from afar, Park Soo-ran hesitated. As a mental patient, she questioned her right to claim Hong Si-yeon, wondering who would want a mentally ill mother. She turned away. Kim Hyo-young intercepted her, demanding an explanation. Park Soo-ran simply stated, "I don't have a daughter," and limped back to the mental hospital. Undeterred, Kim Hyo-young confronted Yoon Kyung-hai, revealing her affair with Jang Myung-hwan and threatening to expose the scandal, humiliating Yoon Kyung-hai and the chairman. Hong Si-yeon arrived just in time to expel Kim Hyo-young. Yoon Kyung-hai, sensing victory, added fuel to the fire, informing Jang Myung-hwan of Kim Hyo-young's threats and feigning concern for the chairman's reaction and his vice-chairmanship. The mention of his position triggered Jang Myung-hwan's panic. He immediately confronted Kim Hyo-young, slapping her without a word. Kim Hyo-young, enraged, questioned his outburst. He choked her, ordering her to disappear from his life. Despite her pleas, he threw her off and left. At the same time, the chairman, remembering his deceased son, decided to visit Hong Sun-hee at the mental hospital. Hong Si-yeon, still feigning madness, maintained her charade. After the chairman left, Jeom Young-suk returned to the hospital alone. To her surprise, Park Soo-ran had accepted a life in the mental hospital, unwilling to disrupt Hong Si-yeon's current life. She expressed her gratitude to Jeom Young-suk for raising Hong Si-yeon so well and asked her to keep the secret forever. Meanwhile, still harboring resentment, Kim Hyo-young sought out Yoon Kyung-hae once more. Despite her reluctance to believe it, Yoon Kyung-hae followed Kim Hyo-young to the hospital. As she reached the door of a room, a blood-curdling scream erupted from within. Terrified, Yoon Kyung-hae fled the hospital, unwilling to accept the possibility of her mother also being mentally ill. Distraught, she sought out Hong Si-yeon for comfort, only to witness an intimate moment between Hong Si-yeon and Jeom Young-suk. This triggered a feeling of betrayal in Yoon Kyung-hae, who had been unaware that Jeom Young-suk, her caregiver since childhood, was Hong Si-yeon's mother, and even more shockingly, her own biological mother. Immediately afterward, Jang Myung-hwan seized the opportunity to approach Jeom Young-suk, using a video of Yoon Kyung-hae's hit-and-run accident as leverage to force her out of the wealthy family. Heartbroken, Jeom Young-suk tearfully left for her daughter's sake. Unbeknownst to her, Yoon Kyung-hae, who had always considered Jeom Young-suk her mother, watched her departure silently from behind. Elsewhere, the chairman suffered a heart attack and decided to expedite Yoon Kyung-hae's inheritance of the company. He summoned the shareholders and installed his supposed niece, Yoon Kyung-hae, as the new chairwoman. After reviewing Lee Yi-jun's investigation, Yoon Kyung-hae finally understood Kim Hyo-young's motive for targeting her. Kim Hyo-young's father, a former employee of the chairman, had died unexpectedly in the chairman's factory. Fueled by this resentment, Kim Hyo-young had been relentlessly antagonizing Yoon Kyung-hae as revenge against the family. Now wielding considerable power, Yoon Kyung-hae decided to deal with Jang Myung-hwan first. Using her corporate authority, she accused him of embezzlement and bribery, stripping him of his position and intending to imprison him. Unfazed, Jang Myung-hwan composed himself and approached Yoon Kyung-hae. Unexpectedly, Kim Hyo-young, abandoned by Jang Myung-hwan, called and used the factory incident to threaten Yoon Kyung-hae into releasing him, prioritizing the company's interests. Yoon Kyung-hae complied, delivering Jang Myung-hwan to Kim Hyo-young, unknowingly walking into a trap. Yoon Kyung-hae attempted to leave but was stopped by Jang Myung-hwan. Injured, she confronted them, demanding an explanation for their actions. Kim Hyo-young then uttered a sentence that exposed Yoon Kyung-hae's true identity, shattering her arrogance. As Yoon Kyung-hae stood stunned, Kim Hyo-young threw a DNA test report at her. The secret kept for 30 years was finally revealed. Hong Si-yeon was the chairman's biological daughter. Returning home, Yoon Kyung-hae found Hong Si-yeon tending to the chairman, a wave of complex emotions washing over her. She removed the ring symbolizing their friendship, a gesture marking the fracture in their relationship. The next day, Jang Myung-hwan, armed with Yoon Kyung-hae's secret, returned home triumphantly. He demanded control of the company and confined her to a suburban villa. This experience profoundly altered Yoon Kyung-hae's personality. Meanwhile, the chairman, upon hearing the news, summoned Jang Myung-hwan. Jang Myung-hwan lied, claiming Yoon Kyung-hae was unwell and he was temporarily filling in as chairman. This excuse infuriated the chairman, nearly leaving him breathless. Thus, the chairman, a veteran of decades in the business world, was hospitalized by Jang Myung-hwan's machinations. The vast family fortune fell into the hands of Kim Hyo-young and Jang Myung-hwan. The next day, Kim Hyo-young entered Yoon Kyung-hae's dressing room, mocking her fashion sense while trying on her clothes. While reveling in her usurpation of Yoon Kyung-hae's possessions, she was startled by his sudden appearance. At the same time, an oblivious Jang Myung-hwan was preparing to assume the chairmanship. He opened the boardroom door and froze, finding the shareholders whispering amongst themselves, completely disregarding him. As he began to berate them, he saw the chairman seated at the head of the table. Security guards immediately escorted Jang Myung-hwan before the chairman. He and Kim Hyo-young faced public condemnation. The chairman listed their offenses, banishing them to Africa and warning Jang Myung-hwan that any attempt to return would result in his entire family's demise. However, Jang Myung-hwan and Kim Hyo-young remained undeterred, knowing the chairman was now a paper tiger and the real power lay with Yoon Kyung-hae. If they could secure her shares, even the chairman would be powerless. That night, Jang Myung-hwan went to the villa to coerce Yoon Kyung-hae into signing over her shares, only to find it shrouded in darkness. In the shadows, Yoon Kyung-hae aimed a shotgun at him. Meanwhile, Hong Si-yeon, worried about her friend, also arrived at the villa. A sudden gunshot startled her as she reached the door. Rushing inside, she found Jang Myung-hwan lying in a pool of blood. As she screamed, Ji Myung-suk covered her eyes. After calming down, Hong Si-yeon attempted to call the police but was stopped by Ji Myung-suk, who took her home. Covered in blood, Hong Si-yeon left the scene. At Yoon Kyung-hae's behest, Ji Myung-suk staged a break-in and contacted the hospital. Miraculously, Jang Myung-hwan survived. However, when questioned by the police, Yoon Kyung-hae was visibly stressed and unable to speak. Fortunately, Ji Myung-suk calmly handled the police, then returned home and warned Hong Si-yeon to keep silent about what she had witnessed. The following day, while reviewing security footage, the police received an anonymous tip. The person in the video, a panicked Hong Si-yeon, became the prime suspect. The police questioned Yoon Kyung-hae about her relationship with the woman in the video, explicitly suspecting Hong Si-yeon of being the perpetrator. Upon learning this, Hong Si-yeon rushed to the family estate to seek her mother and clear her name, only to encounter Yoon Kyung-hae returning home. The former friends were now completely estranged. Yoon Kyung-hae threatened Ji Myung-suk, "If you dare accuse me of being the perpetrator, I will make Hong Si-yeon the real culprit." Ji Myung-suk was nearly brought to her knees. Torn between her biological daughter and Hong Si-yeon, whom she had raised for 30 years, she faced an impossible choice. Just as they were about to accuse each other, Ji Myung-suk stepped forward and confessed to everything. Yoon Kyung-hae questioned her motive. Ji Myung-suk replied, "Jang Myung-hwan was going to die by my hands sooner or later. I did it." Yoon Kyung-hae nearly wept, knowing Ji Myung-suk was taking the blame to protect her. Returning home, she immediately called her lawyer, determined to secure Ji Myung-suk's release. However, Ji Myung-suk was resolute. Upon her temporary release, she took Hong Si-yeon and her youngest daughter on a trip to the countryside, intending to trick Hong Si-yeon into going to Japan to clear her head, preventing her return for a while. In reality, she planned to take Yoon Kyung-hae's place in prison. Before leaving, Ji Myung-suk requested one last meal with Yoon Kyung-hae. At the same time, Hong Si-yeon, upon learning of this, sought help from Lee Yi-jun. Unexpectedly, Lee Yi-jun defied Yoon Kyung-hae's orders and made a secret deal with Kim Hyo-young, obtaining her testimony and passing it on to Hong Si-yeon. Eager to save her mother, Hong Si-yeon immediately took the testimony to the police station to report Yoon Kyung-hae. However, the police informed her that Kim Hyo-young was already at the station. Consumed by hatred for Yoon Kyung-hae, Kim Hyo-young had decided to report her herself. But while awaiting questioning, she received a call from Yoon Kyung-hae. Confident of victory, Kim Hyo-young answered with the intention of taunting Yoon Kyung-hae. However, Yoon Kyung-hae's words startled her so much that she abruptly left for the hospital to visit Jang Myung-hwan. Yoon Kyung-hae entered with a gift box, revealing a stunning wedding dress inside. Left with no other choice for the sake of the man she deeply loved, Kim Hyo-young reluctantly agreed to a compromise. Meanwhile, Hong Si-yeon, learning of Kim Hyo-young's withdrawal, immediately sought out Yoon Kyung-hae. She threatened to reveal everything to the chairman if Yoon Kyung-hae didn't confess, hoping to avoid disturbing him. Yoon Kyung-hae feigned agreement, requesting time to hand over her company responsibilities. The naive Hong Si-yeon readily agreed, unaware that Yoon Kyung-hae immediately sought a certificate of mental illness from Kim Hyo-young. On her way home, Hong Si-yeon was attacked and taken to a mental hospital. There, the realization of her mother's betrayal devastated her. She cried out for her mother before being subdued and taken to another patient's room by a strange man. All of this was orchestrated by Ji Myung-suk in her desperate attempt to protect her. It turned out that after the orderly took Hong Si-yeon away, Ji Myung-suk confronted Yoon Kyung-hae, demanding to know if she would harm Hong Si-yeon again for the inheritance. Upon receiving an affirmative answer, Ji Myung-suk realized the depth of her mistake and took drastic measures to rectify it. Ji Myung-suk went to the hospital where Hong Si-yeon was held. She smashed a bottle and offered all her savings to bribe and threaten the orderly, ultimately persuading him to transfer Hong Si-yeon to the room of her biological mother, Hong Sun-hee. When Hong Si-yeon awoke and innocently called her mother, a nurse intervened, preventing a potential conflict. From then on, Park Soo-ran doted on Hong Si-yeon, cooking for her and insisting she be called mother. Hong Sun-hee's eyes reddened as her daughter openly expressed disgust. One day, after hearing from a nurse about Park Soo-ran's tragic loss of her own daughter, Hong Si-yeon approached Hong Sun-hee from behind and softly called her mother. Meanwhile, Jeom Young-suk urged Yoon Kyung-hae to change her ways, vowing to protect Hong Si-yeon. Blinded by greed, Yoon Kyung-hae told Jeom Young-suk to stop protecting Hong Si-yeon, revealing her knowledge that Jeom Young-suk was her biological mother. However, Jeom Young-suk's actions immediately contradicted her words. Yoon Kyung-hae then feigned vulnerability, hoping Jeom Young-suk would turn a blind eye for her sake, but Jeom Young-suk tearfully refused. At the same time, the chairman was diagnosed with terminal liver disease. The only treatment was a liver transplant, requiring a donor with a blood relation. Knowing she wasn't his real granddaughter, Yoon Kyung-hae was in a predicament. As she watched her grandfather suffering, she remembered his teachings and his kind smile. Finally, Yoon Kyung-hae made the right choice, deciding to release Hong Si-yeon to save her grandfather's life. But just as she was about to tell Jeom Young-suk this news, she discovered that Jeom Young-suk had already told the chairman that she was only his fake granddaughter. The chairman's reaction hit Yoon Kyung-hae like a ton of bricks. Seeing how much the chairman valued blood ties, Yoon Kyung-hae sadly returned to her room. At this point, she didn't want to face the truth, believing that her grandfather would surely still love her. However, the next day when Yoon Kyung-hae wanted to visit her grandfather, she was stopped at the door by the nanny. At the same time, the kind-hearted Hong Si-yeon went to the mental hospital to visit Hong Sun-hee, unexpectedly encountering the chairman there. It turned out the chairman had come to apologize to Hong Sun-hee and also promised Park Son that he would definitely treat Hong Si-yeon well. Next, Yoon Kyung-hae saw her aunt buy Hong Si-yeon a lot of high-end household items. Jealousy flared, and she immediately kicked Hong Si-yeon out of the house. During the ensuing scuffle, Yoon Kyung-hae accidentally fell. Just as the chairman saw this, she immediately pretended to be weak to gain his sympathy. Although unwilling, Yoon Kyung-hae still had to obey the chairman. After returning to her room, she tore up the liver donation form. The chairman, meanwhile, was advising Hong Si-yeon to be more forgiving towards Yoon Kyung-hae. He hoped that Hong Si-yeon and Yoon Kyung-hae could live like real sisters. Following this, the chairman called Jeom Young-suk and told her that he would adopt Yoon Kyung-hae and leave her a portion of his estate. Jeom Young-suk looked at the documents and couldn't help but sigh. She hadn't expected the chairman, who valued blood ties so much, to not abandon Yoon Kyung-hae. At the same time, Kim Hyo-young, who had been quiet for a long time, started to stir up trouble again. She revealed to the media that Jeom Young-suk had taken the blame for someone else. Reporters followed the clues and found the chairman. Hearing the commotion outside, the chairman was about to go out and see what was happening, but Yoon Kyung-hae stopped him. However, at this moment, her gossipy aunt arrived and told the chairman about Jeom Young-suk shooting Jang Myung-hwan. To prevent Jeom Young-suk from being wrongly accused, Hye-jeon knelt before the chairman and pleaded. Finally, the chairman understood the truth and was extremely disappointed, deciding to confine Yoon Kyung-hae to the villa. Before leaving, the kind-hearted Hong Si-yeon wanted to speak up for Yoon Kyung-hae, but Yoon Kyung-hae spoke with extreme hatred, declaring that if she returned, Hong Si-yeon would die. After that, Yoon Kyung-hae had a brief argument with her mother, and then swallowed half a bottle of sleeping pills while her mother was away. Jeom Young-suk, worried about her daughter, returned, thus averting a tragedy. But in reality, all of this was planned by Yoon Kyung-hae in advance to escape the villa and return to the wealthy family. So, just after being kicked out, Yoon Kyung-hae returned to the wealthy family, even thoughtfully leaving a suicide note for the chairman. Sure enough, the chairman's heart softened after reading the note. He immediately revoked the confinement order and told Hong Si-yeon to take good care of Yoon Kyung-hae. However, when Hong Si-yeon went to visit Yoon Kyung-hae, who had just been unconscious, woke up. Hong Si-yeon became increasingly agitated, eventually scolding Yoon Kyung-hae for being inhuman and faking a suicide attempt while her grandfather was ill. Just then, Jeom Young-suk entered. She first asked Hong Si-yeon to leave the room, then directly addressed Yoon Kyung-hae by name. Unexpectedly, Yoon Kyung-hae told Jeom Young-suk to know her place, even claiming to be Jeom Young-suk's master. Seeing Yoon Kyung-hae's stubbornness, Jeom Young-suk angrily warned her, "Don't be so stubborn. I will protect Hong Si-yeon until she reclaims her rightful place as the heiress." But by now, Yoon Kyung-hae was possessed by greed. To stay in the wealthy family, she went to the hospital for tests. After confirming that her liver and the chairman's were compatible for donation, she didn't hesitate to decide to donate 60% of her liver to save him. However, when she told the chairman about this, he vehemently opposed it. Afterwards, the chairman sought out Jeom Young-suk, asking her to stop Yoon Kyung-hae. Jeom Young-suk went to the hospital to investigate and accidentally learned that if the donor wasn't a relative, there could be rejection. Understanding her daughter's character, Jeom Young-suk realized that Yoon Kyung-hae's motive for saving the chairman wasn't so simple. So, she rushed to Yoon Kyung-hae and suggested that Hong Si-yeon donate her liver to the chairman. However, Yoon Kyung-hae naturally refused. Seeing Yoon Kyung-hae's stubbornness despite her proposal, Jeom Young-suk had no choice but to tell Hong Si-yeon the whole truth. She frankly stated that Hong Si-yeon was the chairman's real granddaughter, and the mentally ill Hong Sun-hee was her biological mother. Hearing this, Hong Si-yeon nearly collapsed, instinctively wanting to flee, but Yoon Kyung-hae blocked her at the door. Learning her true identity from Jeom Young-suk, Hong Si-yeon immediately went to the mental hospital to find her biological mother, only to discover that Yoon Kyung-hae had already taken her away. She hurriedly sought out Yoon Kyung-hae, offering to relinquish her claim to the inheritance. Her condition was that Yoon Kyung-hae had to promise to donate her liver to the chairman and release her biological mother, Park Soo-ran. However, at this point, Yoon Kyung-hae was blinded by greed. She didn't listen to a word Hong Si-yeon said. She only believed that everything Hong Si-yeon was doing was to fight for her grandfather's assets. So, Hong Si-yeon was kicked out of the company and had to seek help from Jeom Young-suk. Finally, after discussing it, Jeom Young-suk decided to reveal the truth publicly. Hong Si-yeon was the real heiress. Unexpectedly, after learning this, Yoon Kyung-hae used the chairman's life to threaten Hong Si-yeon. Furthermore, she said that to save the chairman, Hong Si-yeon had to sign a waiver relinquishing her inheritance rights. Knowing she could save her grandfather, the kind-hearted Hong Si-yeon immediately agreed. However, after completing all the procedures, a week passed. Just as the surgery was about to begin, Yoon Kyung-hae suddenly requested to change the donor's name to her own. She also said that as long as Hong Si-yeon agreed, not only would the surgery proceed as planned, but she would also return Hong Si-yeon's biological mother. Although it was unreasonable to save her grandfather, Hong Si-yeon reluctantly agreed to this absurd request. Soon, the liver transplant surgery began. Looking at her grandfather lying weakly on the hospital bed, Hong Si-yeon felt very happy. As if sensing something, her grandfather woke up and turned to her. The two of them held hands and entered the operating room. Shortly after the surgery ended, Hong Si-yeon slowly regained consciousness, but when she woke up, she found herself unharmed. At this moment, she realized she had been tricked by Yoon Kyung-hae again. She wanted to find her grandfather, but discovered she was confined to the hospital. At the same time, the fake heiress, Yoon Kyung-hae, was convening a shareholders' meeting, officially announcing the chairman's death. She clenched her fists, feeling both grief and secret joy that she had finally become the head of the company. After returning to her office, Yoon Kyung-hae called her subordinates, wanting to deal with Hong Si-yeon. But she discovered that Lee Yi-jun had already rescued Hong Si-yeon. However, the scene suddenly changed. Hong Si-yeon, immersed in her fantasy, woke up. Then, Yoon Kyung-hae stepped forward, warning Hong Si-yeon not to cause trouble at her grandfather's funeral. Finally, Hong Si-yeon looked at her grandfather's portrait, suppressed her anger, and left. Seeing Hong Si-yeon stumble out, Jeom Young-suk asked her why she didn't reveal the truth to reclaim her identity. Unexpectedly, Hong Si-yeon said that the chairman's greatest wish while he was alive was for his two granddaughters to get along. But things didn't go as planned. The next day, Kim Hyo-young brought a lawyer to Hong Si-yeon's house to announce the will. The content stated that the shares would be divided equally. Hong Si-yeon and Yoon Kyung-hae would manage the company together. Hong Si-yeon didn't understand why. She sought out Yoon Kyung-hae and questioned her, asking why she gave up power and wasn't afraid of her taking over the company. But in the blink of an eye, Yoon Kyung-hae, who had just thought about fair competition, came up with a new scheme. She told Lee Yi-jun to transfer Jang Myung-hwan's embezzled money into Hong Si-yeon's account. That way, Hong Si-yeon would go to jail and wouldn't be able to compete with her for power anymore. Then, under the lawyer's supervision, Yoon Kyung-hae changed the project's name, transferred it to Hong Si-yeon, and secretly reported it to the police. Next, Yoon Kyung-hae went to the hospital and unexpectedly discovered that Jang Myung-hwan, who was supposed to be in a vegetative state, had woken up. To eliminate this threat, Yoon Kyung-hae arranged a surgery that would surely kill him, and she took revenge on Kim Hyo-young by having her admitted to a mental hospital. The next day, as Hong Si-yeon was preparing to take office, Yoon Kyung-hae stopped her. Just as Hong Si-yeon was feeling confused, the police suddenly burst in and arrested her for illegal fundraising. At this point, Hong Si-yeon realized she had been tricked by Yoon Kyung-hae yet again. But this time, Hong Si-yeon wasn't going to sit around and wait. Just as Yoon Kyung-hae was smugly watching the drama unfold, another team of police officers stormed into the office. Yoon Kyung-hae, who had plotted against Hong Si-yeon, was unexpectedly arrested herself. She instinctively looked towards Hong Si-yeon, thinking that she had reported her to the police, but unexpectedly, it wasn't Hong Si-yeon who reported her, but her own mother, Jeom Young-suk. Unintentionally, Jeom Young-suk's actions helped Hong Si-yeon get revenge. Next, Jeom Young-suk went to the police station to visit Yoon Kyung-hae, hoping her daughter would come to her senses. But no matter what Jeom Young-suk said, Yoon Kyung-hae had lost her mind, only seeing Jeom Young-suk as being two-faced. She believed that Jeom Young-suk and Hong Si-yeon were working together, wanting to seize the company while she was in jail. And so, to keep the company, Yoon Kyung-hae started playing the victim and appealing to emotions. She hoped that Jeom Young-suk, out of maternal love, wouldn't tell the police about her shooting Jang Myung-hwan. Seeing her daughter nearly insane, the usually calm Jeom Young-suk was startled. Next, Yoon Kyung-hae called a lawyer to discuss the situation, only to hear the lawyer say that because both managers were arrested, the company's leadership was in chaos, and even the factory was about to close. To stabilize the situation, Yoon Kyung-hae had to tell the lawyer to drop the charges against Hong Si-yeon so she could help the company overcome its difficulties. After being released and cleared of all charges, Hong Si-yeon learned that Yoon Kyung-hae had helped her get out of jail and decided to give her another chance. Hong Si-yeon sought out Yoon Kyung-hae and said that as long as she revealed her mother's whereabouts, she would use all her connections to get her released from jail as soon as possible. Unexpectedly, Yoon Kyung-hae sneered contemptuously. At that moment, Lee Yi-jun received a text message revealing the hiding place of Hong Si-yeon's biological mother. However, even then, Hong Si-yeon still wanted to give Yoon Kyung-hae a chance. Because from the beginning, she didn't need the answer. She wanted to see Yoon Kyung-hae's attitude. Seeing Yoon Kyung-hae's stubbornness, Hong Si-yeon sadly prepared to leave. But just then, Yoon Kyung-hae voluntarily revealed the true location of Hong Si-yeon's mother. At this moment, Yoon Kyung-hae realized that Hong Si-yeon had already known her mother's whereabouts. She looked at Hong Si-yeon in disbelief, not understanding why she had spared her. Not long after, Yoon Kyung-hae was also released from the police station. Facing her waiting mother, she showed no gratitude, instead becoming even more vicious and cruel, planning to use Jeom Young-suk against Hong Si-yeon. Meanwhile, Hong Si-yeon, having reclaimed her identity as the heiress, brought her mentally ill mother back to the villa to live a comfortable life, unexpectedly awakening her mother's long-buried memories. Just then, Jeom Young-suk came to visit Hong Si-yeon. Enemies often clash, especially since Jeom Young-suk had caused Hong Si-yeon so much suffering. However, one slap wasn't enough to vent her anger. Jeom Young-suk's apology wasn't worth much either. Fortunately, Hong Si-yeon, remembering their past relationship, pulled Hong Sun-hee away. But sadly, Yoon Kyung-hae, Jeom Young-suk's own daughter, just watched as if nothing had happened, even mocking Jeom Young-suk. Later, Yoon Kyung-hae told Jeom Young-suk not to leave the villa, not out of concern for her mother, but out of fear that Hong Sun-hee, in her madness, would harm her. Next, Lee Yi-jun called Hong Si-yeon and Yoon Kyung-hae to the study to discuss matters. He reminded them that in the shareholders' meeting the next day, The company's leadership would definitely remove one of them from the chairman position because of their arrest. As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere in the study immediately became tense. Both wanted to oust the other from the company. However, the next day, the shareholders' representatives suspended both of their positions. Upon receiving this news, Yoon Kyung-hae immediately protested. The company couldn't be without a leader. Someone had to fill the chairman position. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Jang Myung-hwan appeared triumphantly in a wheelchair. Just like that, with the support of the leadership, Jang Myung-hwan returned to the chairman's seat. At the same time, Kim Hyo-young, thinking that Jang Myung-hwan was dead, was about to commit suicide to follow her lover. Fortunately, Jang Myung-hwan arrived in time to save her. Seeing the man she loved safe and sound, Kim Hyo-young carefully touched him. She couldn't believe that Jang Myung-hwan, who should have died on the operating table, was standing right in front of her. Later, seeking revenge, Jang Myung-hwan approached Hong Se-yeon. He hoped Hong Se-yeon would join forces with him to drive Yoon Kyung-hae out of the company and promised her the vice-chairman position after they succeeded. But how could Jang Myung-hwan hide his thoughts from Hong Se-yeon? Facing his outstretched hand, Hong Se-yeon grabbed his wrist, stating frankly that she wouldn't be like Yoon Kyung-hae, collaborating with evil for personal gain. At the same time, Kim Hyo-young went to Yoon Kyung-hae's room and slapped her hard. But now, Yoon Kyung-hae was no longer the docile lamb she once was. She grabbed Kim Hyo-young's collar and threatened, "The one who shoots can't be afraid of the one who gets shot." With Jang Myung-hwan as chairman, Hong Se-yeon and Yoon Kyung-hae were demoted to the customer service department, responsible for answering complaint calls. Both were determined to protect their grandfather's company, even if they had to start from the bottom. One day, Hong Se-yeon received a call from a victim of the toxic gas plant incident. She was usually very eloquent, but was rendered speechless by the victim. So, when she got home, Hong Se-yeon began investigating the truth of what happened back then and discovered that Kim Hyo-young was the mastermind behind everything. Afterwards, Hong Se-yeon and Yoon Kyung-hae went to see Kim Hyo-young. Hong Se-yeon was responsible for restraining Kim Hyo-young, while Yoon Kyung-hae took the opportunity to search for evidence. After obtaining the evidence, Hong Se-yeon immediately convened a meeting and spoke directly to the victims' families. Faced with their criticism and anger, she didn't say a word, silently enduring their wrath. Meanwhile, Yoon Kyung-hae arrived late, didn't dare to step forward, and fearfully left the meeting room. After everyone calmed down, Hong Se-yeon presented the evidence she found from Kim Hyo-young. Just as people were about to forgive Hong Se-yeon, Jang Myung-hwan suddenly appeared, using compensation as an excuse. He accused the victims' families of damaging Hong Se-yeon's reputation, but he didn't expect her to agree to share her shares with them to appease their anger, on the condition that they support her as chairman. Because of this, Hong Se-yeon's reputation within the company grew, making Yoon Kyung-hae very uneasy. After returning home, she looked in the mirror and experienced a hallucination. In her hallucination, Hong Se-yeon was sitting in the chairman's seat, while she, once dressed in finery, was now wearing coarse clothing. Thinking of this, Yoon Kyung-hae woke up with a start, determined to prevent the hallucination from becoming reality. When Jang Myung-hwan sought her out to deal with Hong Se-yeon, this selfish woman compromised once again. Hong Se-yeon stormed into the office, overturned the things on the desk, and demanded to know where Jang Myung-hwan had hidden her mother. Unexpectedly, Jang Myung-hwan didn't get angry but smiled, because Hong Se-yeon's reaction was exactly what he wanted to see. In response to Hong Se-yeon's question, Jang Myung-hwan deliberately revealed that Yoon Kyung-hae had tricked her into giving up Hong Sun-hee's videotape, aiming to drive a wedge between them. As expected, when Hong Se-yeon saw Yoon Kyung-hae, she was stunned. Next, Jang Myung-hwan added fuel to the fire, demanding that Hong Se-yeon hand over her company shares. But the shares weren't for him, but for Yoon Kyung-hae. Meanwhile, Hong Sun-hee, tricked into thinking Hong Se-yeon wasn't there, started clinging to Kim Hyo-young. Kim Hyo-young, losing her patience, finally revealed her true colors. She took out 2 boxes of matches and told Hong Sun-hee to build a tower with them, saying that if she built the tower quietly, she would take her to see Hong Se-yeon. Knowing she could see her daughter, Hong Sun-hee immediately fell silent and began carefully stacking the matches. However, when she finally finished the tower, Kim Hyo-young knocked it down and dragged Hong Sun-hee into the bathroom. A while later, the procedures for transferring Hong Si-yeon's shares were completed. Kim Hyo-young also received a call from Jang Myung-hwan. Next, the two of them prepared to carry out their final plan, using Yoon Kyung-hae to kill Hong Sun-hee. However, Yoon Kyung-hae overheard this exchange. Seeing Kim Hyo-young's triumphant smile, Yoon Kyung-hae returned to the kitchen, slipped a sleeping pill into Kim Hyo-young's wine glass, and then pretended to celebrate, offering to drink with her. Unexpectedly, the cunning Kim Hyo-young didn't accept the glass from Yoon Kyung-hae but grabbed a different one. She only drank after watching Yoon Kyung-hae finish her wine. Following their plan, Kim Hyo-young then gave Yoon Kyung-hae what she claimed was a sleeping pill, actually pufferfish poison, and told her to give it to Park Soo-ran. Yoon Kyung-hae pretended to comply, but upon reaching the restroom, she quickly signaled Park Soo-ran to stay quiet, then bent over the toilet and promptly vomited up the wine. Afterwards, the poison took effect on Kim Hyo-young, and she passed out. Yoon Kyung-hae immediately called Hong Si-yeon, telling her to bring the stock certificates in exchange for her mother. However, while they were talking, Hong Sun-hee seized the opportunity to escape. By the time Yoon Kyung-hae caught up to her, it was too late. Instinctively, Yoon Kyung-hae tried to check on Hong Sun-hee's condition. But as she approached, Hong Si-yeon yelled at her to stay back, threatening to kill her if she came any closer. Soon after, Park Soo-ran was taken to the hospital, but due to her health condition, she couldn't undergo surgery and could only wait to regain consciousness naturally. Hong Si-yeon returned home to pack Hong Sun-hee's belongings and stumbled upon her mother's painting. It clearly depicted the relationship between her mother and Kim Hyo-young, as well as the necklace the doctor had given her. Connecting the dots, Hong Si-yeon finally understood everything. Back at the hospital, looking at her mother lying in the hospital bed, she vowed to make Jang Myung-hwan and Kim Hyo-young pay. Next, Hong Si-yeon sought out the representative of the victims of the chemical plant incident. She pleaded for their help, promising to share the stocks with them as promised once she retrieved them. Seeing Hong Si-yeon's sincerity, the representative agreed to her request. Following Hong Si-yeon's plan, the representative approached Yoon Kyung-hae and Jang Myung-hwan to discuss a collaboration, claiming to possess a secret portion of the former chairman's inheritance. He offered to hand it over on the condition that they turn over Kim Hyo-young, the daughter of the mastermind behind the chemical plant incident. After deliberation, Jang Myung-hwan and Yoon Kyung-hae decided to hand over Kim Hyo-young. Ironically, Kim Hyo-young was at home preparing a cake to celebrate Jang Myung-hwan's birthday. She never expected that the man who constantly professed his love for her would tie her up and hand her over to the victims' families. Just then, a stoic Hong Si-yeon emerged from the crowd, signaling her subordinates to remove Kim Hyo-young's restraints. Then, Hong Si-yeon laid out her terms. Yoon Kyung-hae must transfer the shares to the victims, and Jang Myung-hwan must resign as chairman. To her surprise, Yoon Kyung-hae turned and walked away. After hesitating, Jang Myung-hwan also chose to abandon a pleading Kim Hyo-young. Once they were gone, the victims' families swarmed and attacked Kim Hyo-young. Finally, Hong Si-yeon herself placed a gas mask on her. Just moments before, Kim Hyo-young had scoffed at the sight of the gas canister, but now she was terrified and even tried to open the valve. Fearing death, she abandoned her love and blurted out that she had evidence against Jang Myung-hwan, asking Hong Si-yeon for a chance to cooperate. She wanted to drag that heartless man down to hell herself. Subsequently, Kim Hyo-young and Hong Si-yeon held a press conference. In front of numerous media outlets, Kim Hyo-young exposed her illicit relationship with Jang Myung-hwan and his acts of bribery and embezzlement. As expected, after the news broke, the newly appointed Jang Myung-hwan faced immediate opposition from the shareholders. Mentally exhausted, he was about to drive home when he discovered a blood-stained wedding dress on the car seat. Then, Kim Hyo-young emerged from the back seat and tied him up, taking him to a villa. There, she injected something directly into Jang Myung-hwan's thigh. Thus, Jang Myung-hwan, rendered unconscious, missed a crucial meeting, his position plummeting drastically. Left with no other choice, he stole the company seal and gave it to Kim Hyo-young, planning to use the money to win back the shareholders. He was completely unaware that this was all a trap set by Hong Si-yeon and Kim Hyo-young. The two used Jang Myung-hwan's seal to borrow 3 billion from a loan shark. However, as soon as the money was in hand, greed overcame Kim Hyo-young, and she planned to run away with it. Fortunately, Hong Si-yeon discovered this in time and stopped her. At this point, Kim Hyo-young finally realized she was just a pawn in Hong Si-yeon's revenge plan. Soon after, pursued by the loan sharks, Kim Hyo-young and Jang Myung-hwan were caught. The two schemers were locked in the same room. Kim Hyo-young tricked Jang Myung-hwan into untying her first. Once free, she immediately left without looking back, mirroring how Jang Myung-hwan had abandoned her earlier. Kim Hyo-young then went to the police station to report a crime, unaware that she had been followed. Under Jeom Young-suk's direction, Lee Yi-jun made a single phone call, and the police received evidence of Kim Hyo-young's attempt to harm Yoon Kyung-hae. She had intended to report a crime, but became a criminal in an instant. Furious, Kim Hyo-young tried to destroy the evidence right in front of the police. Ultimately, she was arrested and sentenced to 15 years in prison for her actions. At the same time, Jang Myung-hwan escaped from his confinement. However, he didn't know that his escape was orchestrated by Jeom Young-suk, who bribed the loan sharks. Her motive was to avenge her daughter, Yoon Kyung-hae. She ensured Jang Myung-hwan lived a life on the run, trapping him in his own villa. According to Hong Si-yeon's plan, Kim Hyo-young and Jang Myung-hwan had played their parts. But Yoon Kyung-hae remained unrepentant. Consumed by power, she not only scrapped Hong Si-yeon's plan to build a charity hospital, but also tried to oust Hong Si-yeon from the company. These actions infuriated Hong Si-yeon. Meanwhile, while cleaning, Jeom Young-suk stumbled upon a hidden safe in the former chairman's office. Inside were a letter the chairman left for Park San and an umbilical cord keepsake. Worried about the relationship between her two daughters, she decided to tell Yoon Kyung-hae about it, so she could pass it on to Hong Si-yeon. Unexpectedly, Yoon Kyung-hae seized this inheritance for herself. But upon opening the safe, she was deeply disappointed to find that the former chairman's legacy was merely a notebook documenting his entrepreneurial journey. Upon learning this, Hong Si-yeon immediately asked Jeom Young-suk to help her retrieve the legacy. Feeling guilty, Jeom Young-suk readily agreed. That evening, she delivered the legacy to Hong Si-yeon. Seeing her grandfather's dedication, Hong Si-yeon's hope was rekindled, and she resolved to fight Yoon Kyung-hae. To oust Hong Si-yeon from the company, Yoon Kyung-hae falsely accused her of stealing someone else's designs. Fortunately, Hong Si-yeon was prepared. She countered Yoon Kyung-hae and confidently proposed to the shareholders that she was willing to prove her innocence at a hearing. For the sake of the company's development, the major shareholders readily agreed, and the hearing proceeded as planned. Hong Si-yeon was thoroughly prepared. She answered the shareholders' questions fluently. Furthermore, she advocated for upholding the former chairman's clothing philosophy, earning the shareholders' approval. In contrast, Yoon Kyung-hae, ill-prepared, could only rely on rote memorization. She paled in comparison to Hong Si-yeon. Facing the shareholders' questions, she attempted one last struggle, but was interrupted by her mother. It turned out that as soon as Yoon Kyung-hae left, Jeom Young-suk had knelt and begged her to return everything to Hong Si-yeon. At that moment, the shareholders' voices interrupted her flashback. Thus, Yoon Kyung-hae relinquished everything and finally smiled serenely. However, as Yoon Kyung-hae was about to move out of the villa, she was followed by Jang Myung-hwan. Coincidentally, Hong Si-yeon also arrived at the villa, prepared to bid Yoon Kyung-hae a final farewell. Unexpectedly, when Jeom Young-suk returned to the villa, she found a chaotic scene, with signs of a struggle everywhere. It turned out Jang Myung-hwan had kidnapped both Hong Si-yeon and Yoon Kyung-hae. He then began recounting his tragic life story. Hong Si-yeon pointedly interrupted him, retorting that Jang Myung-hwan's downfall was his own doing. Then, as Jang Myung-hwan reached for his gun, she and Yoon Kyung-hae surreptitiously untied themselves. Facing the gun's barrel, Hong Si-yeon bravely grabbed it, shoving Jang Myung-hwan away and fleeing upstairs with Yoon Kyung-hae. However, Jang Myung-hwan cornered them. Just then, Jeom Young-suk appeared and took a bullet meant for Hong Si-yeon. Seeing Jeom Young-suk collapse, both daughters were horrified. While being rushed to the hospital with her mother, Yoon Kyung-hae, overcome with grief, suffered a heart attack and fainted. Jang Myung-hwan hid, escaping the police but not his conscience. It was his mother's birthday, and he had become a murderer on that day. Meanwhile, Yoon Kyung-hae was undergoing emergency treatment for her heart attack. Jeom Young-suk, though shot, refused treatment. She had already consulted with specialists and, to save her daughter, wanted to donate her heart to Yoon Kyung-hae. Thus, in her final moments, Jeom Young-suk achieved redemption, taking a bullet for her adopted daughter, Hong Si-yeon, and giving her heart to her biological daughter, Yoon Kyung-hae. As the ambulance sirens wailed, Hong Si-yeon wept silently. Meanwhile, the unconscious Yoon Kyung-hae dreamt of her mother. The surgery was a success. Upon learning about her mother's sacrifice, Yoon Kyung-hae sobbed. She finally understood the meaning of family. To embrace a new life, Yoon Kyung-hae bravely walked into the police station, calmly facing her mistakes. 3 years later, Yoon Kyung-hae was released from prison. Though simply dressed, she was at peace. She visited a place she had traveled to with her mother. Recalling cherished memories with Hong Si-yeon and her mother, she took out a ring symbolizing their friendship and murmured, "What if? What if we were sisters?" Unexpectedly, Hong Si-yeon appeared, holding the matching ring, and replied, "I think it's not too late." Hand in hand, they walked towards a brighter future.